Well, howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today we're going to play with Synology some more. Yes, our Synology series of videos, especially if you're going to run Synology in a business. Now, I typically run Windows servers in businesses, but I'm moving slowly over and warming up to the Synology for a lot of my small to medium business clients because it's like an all-in-one package that works really well. Now, one of the nice things about Windows Server is Windows Active Directory, integrated DNS, group policies, that kind of thing. It gives you a lot of control and flexibility over managing not only Windows access to Windows Server, but access to Windows 10 workstations. Allows you to kind of customize them, control them, and keep people from doing nefarious things on them. So what we're going to do today is install Synology's version of a directory server onto the Synology flash station that is on loan to us. So that's what the video today is going to be about. Now, I was also going to include how to set up a Synology mail server for those of you that are interested in hosting your own email on Synology. But I've decided to save that for another video, for another time, because this video was running a little bit long. So all I'm doing when I'm sitting here talking to you is making it run longer. So let's get the video started right now. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is come over to Package Center and come down here to Packages, All Packages. Let's see if we can find it here. It should be, what's it called? Let's change this to Business and see if it's here. They have changed the name of it, so the Active Directory is Synology Directory Server, I believe is what they're calling it. Let's find out. Synology Directory Server, yes, this is it. So this is what we want to install. So we'll click on Install. Now, part of this is it's also going to install a DNS server. So keep in mind, when you put this Active Directory, or as Synology calls it, Synology Directory Server on there, this then becomes also your internal DNS server. So that's going to give you some additional benefits. Even if you're a home user, running your own DNS server lets you kind of take control over that. So we'll go ahead and download and install that. Alright, so it's also installing the DNS server while it's downloading the Active Directory server. Actually, I need to quit calling it that. We ought to just call it Synology Directory Server, so there's no confusion. Okay, so it's running. Should have installed it now. So come up here to the main menu, and there should be a couple more icons on here. One is the Synology Directory Server, so we can right click and add that to the desktop. And the other one is DNS Server, so we can right click and add that to the desktop as well. Now we're going to need to go out and make some configuration changes to the network, because instead of the Synology NAS going out to the internet for its DNS, we want it to first go to the DNS server that we have here locally. So let's go make those network changes now. So you want to come into Control Panel and go to the Network Settings and make sure on your network interface, which in my case is LAN 5, I go ahead and I put the IP address of this machine, which is 20.1, is going to be my DNS server. It's going to be the authoritative DNS server for both internal and external. So what'll happen is that the DNS server will become a forwarder. So if you click on the DNS server, you'll see that on the resolution, it's grayed out here, but it is enabled. It enabled forwarders, and it knows the forwarding IP is 8.8.8. 8.8.8.8. Yeah, 4 8s. So here's what will happen. If some device on the 20 network or 20 subnet needs a DNS request and the DNS server here at 20.1 can't respond to it, or can't fulfill it, it'll then forward it to 8.8.8 and resolve it that way. Now keep in mind we also have DHCP running, so we want to go ahead and modify our DHCP server as well. So we come there under DHCP server, edit, and what we want to do is make sure we put our 20.1 in here, and then our secondary can be 8.8.8.8. So what will happen is as the DHCP server hands out IP addresses, this will be the primary IP for DNS, this will be the secondary. So what that allows you to do is then in the event that this DNS server is down, the workstations will still be able to get out and use Google for DNS. So we'll just go ahead and click OK on here. Now what I'd like to do is go ahead and test that with one of the virtual machines to make sure DNS is working properly. So let me go spin up a virtual machine, we'll connect to it, and then we'll take a look. Alright, so yeah, this is Hermes, and it's got a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm actually encoding some videos while I'm doing this, but this is one of the virtual machines. It's a member of that work group. So if I just right click down here on the network icon and open network and internet settings, one of the options you'll have is view your network properties. So if we come here, you'll see that indeed the DHCP server is now handing out the 20.1 as its primary IP for DNS and 8.8.8 for anything else. So let's go see if that will work. So I'm just going to go out to a command prompt and run it as an administrator. And we'll just ping, let's say google.com. And we'll see that our IP addresses, DNS is working, it's translating, everything's working as it should. So that's one of the first steps you need to do to get DNS set up right. And seeing as we're running a DHCP server, we also need to make sure that was configured correctly, which we have now done. So now we can move on with getting the directory services set up and getting them configured. Alright, so we're back on our Synology NAS, the flash station. So let's go and do Synology Directory Server. And once we open it, you'll see that it says welcome to the Synology Directory Server Setup Wizard. It's going to click on next. Now the workgroup name I'm going to create is going to be called labnet.local. And it'll automatically, if I tab to the next field, it'll automatically fill in the workgroup name. Okay, it wants to know what account to use, so we're going to use administrator, and I'm going to type in a super secret password. These are the keys to the kingdom, folks, so make sure you're using a secure password. Click on next. Domain name labnet.local, workgroup labnet. Click on apply. Then it'll go out and it will create the domain for you. Fairly simple. Now we're not going to do a deep dive into Synology Directory Server, where I'm just showing you basically how to set it up and create a domain. And then I'm going to show you how to add computers to that domain. Windows 10 computers. We're not going to bother with, well, maybe we will bother with Windows 7. I know some of you still use Windows 7. So there you go. There's labnet.local. The NetBIOS domain NetBIOS name is labnet. And so if we come here to users and computers, you'll see it's already created a bunch of users for us. There should be no computers in there. There should be only one domain controller, and that's the FS1018 Plus. So you'll see it's created groups and users. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then we have some domain policies in here that you can change. So the maximum password age is 42 days. The minimum is 1 day. The minimum length is 7 characters. It enforces password history up to 24 records. And it enables password strength check. So we'll just click on apply on there. No settings were changed, so it's not going to make any difference. We can just simply close that. All right, so we're over here on Hermes, where the location where our virtual machines are stored, and we're going to see if we can't run Windows 10 Pro VM1, and we're going to see if we can't add this to the new domain. So let's see if we've got this done correctly. So we're going to click on File Explorer and then right-click on this PC and go to Properties. And right about the middle of the screen, you have an option here to change settings. We're going to click there. We're going to actually come here to rename this computer or change its domain or workgroup. Click on Change. And we're going to choose domain. And this domain is called labnet.local. Once we've typed that in, click OK. Now, I have not created a domain administrator account called Adama. Even though that's how we log on to the Synology, I haven't created an account for it under Active Directory. So what we're going to need to use here is administrator. And then our super secret password. And click on OK. Then if all goes well, it should welcome us to the labnet.local domain, which it did. We'll click OK again, close, and then we need to restart the virtual machine. Now, once we verify that we can log into the domain and see all the pretty pictures and everything, then we'll go back to Synology and we'll create an account called Adama that has domain privileges. I'll show you how to do that. Let's bring up the other virtual machine and let's do the same thing with it. Let's get it joined to the network or to the domain. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the benefit is of doing this with Synology. I haven't delved deeply into the Active Directory built into Synology, but these are all building blocks in our Synology series, so we'll learn as we go. And hopefully this will there's some sort of group policy we can do, something like that. If nothing else, it allows us to set our password expiration, that kind of thing. So we're going to do the same thing on this virtual machine. So we'll go ahead and log in. Now, one thing I want to do once this virtual machine comes up is verify that we've got the new DHCP settings. I'm sorry, I was just checking the surveillance cameras up there. I'm always a little worried when I get to a little spinning circle for a long period of time. Normally it goes pretty quickly. Yeah, and another thing I've noticed about Windows 10, Windows 10, love it or hate it. Anytime you start making some serious changes to Windows 10, the 1903 version, for some reason we're getting these resetting the default apps, etc. So I haven't looked into that. I'm just going to come out here to the Network Center and view the network properties and make sure we're getting our, we see our DNS domain name, connection suffix list, etc. So we should be ready to join this one to the labnet.local domain. All right, so again, we're going to right click on this PC, come down here to properties, go here to change settings, change. And we're going to do labnet.local. Click OK. And then we'll need to log on to the NAS with the administrator account. And our super secret password. Click OK. Welcomes us to the labnet domain. Tells us we must restart. So we'll go ahead and restart now. And I'm wondering if this one says it's restarting. I don't see it saying what this one is doing, which is getting Windows ready. I think there were some updates pending on VM1, and that may be why it's stuck. So, good old Windows. Yeah, if there's one major complaint I have about Windows 10 is deferring updates. But Microsoft is doing what it's doing, and if you're going to use Windows, what can I say? Unfortunately, we're stuck. We're stuck with Microsoft. Now, when I come back and log in this time, I'll need to log in as administrator. on the LabNet domain. So we'll click on the Control-Alt-Delete, and then we need to choose Other User, LabNet Administrator. Pay close attention to that sign into, because if you don't have that right, you won't actually log into the domain controller. And I think this one out here is still stuck on updates, so we'll have to fix that. The problem is you run a risk in shutting a machine down. If it's stuck on an update, it could foobar the operating system. So now that we're joined to an actual domain, it's going to create a new profile for the administrator user before it presents us with a desktop. Okay, so there we are. And you see it's going through an app reset. Don't ask me why it's doing this, why Windows chooses to do this, but it is what it is. And there's, I'd be willing to bet there's probably an update that will fix this. It just goes to show that Microsoft is not testing their OS before they put it out to the people like they used to. In fact, if you watch Barnacules, he used to work for Microsoft years ago. But he used to be in the quality control department. Okay, so it looks good. Let's just verify that we are a part of this domain now. So we'll come here to Properties. And you can see we're part of the labnet.local. Now, real quick, let's switch over to Synology. And let's go look if our computer is out here yet. Let's see. Reload. No, I don't see any computers out here. Normally it'll tell you that there's a computer joined to the... There it is. So there's my LabNet 10 Pro VM1 and 10 Pro VM2. So they have both been actually joined to the domain. Success. Go to users and computers. We're going to come up here and we're going to add Adama. So the login name is going to be Adama. And the user description is Bill Adama. And the super secret password. Now for admin users, I like to change this to password never expires. Click on next. Now, one thing I want to do is make sure that this user is a member of domain admins. That'll give him full control over the domain. Well, it does on Active Directory. I'm assuming it does the same thing with on Synology. So we'll click on next. Let's see. Let's look at our summary here. Domain users and domain admins. That all looks good. So we'll click on apply. So now we should be able to log onto those virtual machines as Adama and still have full control. Yeah, and there's Adama right there. So if we double click on him, general profile. There is a profile path. Member of. Good, we'll have to come in here and play around with this. You can even set login hours. I like this. I'm starting to like Synology Active Directory Server. It looks like looks good. And then it's got domain policies. So we'll come back to this. Let's go see if it works now on our workstations. So let's try out our new account on Windows 10 VM1. Let's go to Other User here. And we're going to type labnet /Adama. And we'll use that new account and see if this works. Hopefully it will. And there we go. It's creating us a new user profile. Time for a sip of... Oh my goodness, my coffee's getting low. And it's almost lunchtime, so... We eat lunch every day from 12:30 to 1:30. You might notice my face a little red today. I suffer from panic attacks. And heart palpitation. Well, I get heart palpitations because of the panic attack. So I have nifty medication for it, but I try not to take it unless it's absolutely necessary. Problem is I felt the attack coming on about 10-15 minutes ago. Usually my heart starts racing, that kind of thing. We don't know what's causing it still, but I have these wonderful pills that I take and they kind of calm it. So if you see my face getting flushed, it's just because my blood pressure is on the rise, and nothing to worry about. I'm not having a heart attack. My heart is healthy, and all is good. So just a little panic attack and it will pass. You know, and I never used to believe in panic attacks. I thought people were like, oh, they're just overreacting. Nope. It's not the case. And, you know, that's the way it is in life. A lot of times you don't, until you experience it personally, you have no idea what you're talking about things. So let's see here. It looks like we're now joined to the domain. We're just going to verify that. And I clicked one too many times. So let's right click on this PC and go to properties, and we should be on labnet.local. Yes, we are. All right, so let's look at Synology Directory Server, because if you've ever seen me in my Windows courses, I did a semi-deep dive into Windows Active Directory. One of the things I love about Windows Active Directory is in a larger environment, you have what are called group policies. So I've looked far and wide on Synology to see if they have anything similar, and the best I can find right now, as of this video, is they have a domain policy but no actual group policy. Because in group policies you can set up drive shares, you can set up all kinds of neat stuff you can do with group policy. However, there is a setting that it does have under users and computers. So if I were to edit my user, there are some things I can do. I can change the login hours that this user is allowed to use computers. I can also select what computers this user is allowed to log on to. I can change the password. I can disallow the user. You see all the options here. So very limited settings on what you can do. General is just where you store more of their information for their Active Directory. Now, it does allow you to have a profile path. I'm not going to get into profiles, but basically it's a location for you to share desktop settings and that type of thing for Windows 7 and Windows 10. I could create a custom login script where it does mappings, and I could also connect a local drive letter. For example, drive J, I could connect to a user's home directory, but we're not going to use that. And then, of course, member of is to see what other memberships this user has. So while it does have their directory server, it is kind of limited into function. I'll do a little research on group policies and see if those are available under Synology. But at this point, as at the time of this video, I don't see any way to do that. So there you go, YouTube. Again, Synology's directory server is not an in-place replacement for Active Directory. Active Directory has quite a few more features than Synology's directory server. So I'll do a little more research on the application and see what I can find on it. I'm eager to find out if there's a comparison chart on it, but I think you're going to find it's apples and oranges, not apples and apples, when comparing it to Windows Active Directory. And considering as much as you pay for these Synology NAS units, you could actually buy a Windows server license with 5 clients for about the same amount of money. So it's one of those things you have to weigh. Although Synology is pretty much set it and forget it, Windows Server requires quite a bit more maintenance than Synology would, and you really need a person, either someone you hire or someone who's available to assist you with Windows Server 2019, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong and need to be thought out ahead of time before you just plunk a server in place, especially one running Active Directory. So like I say, I'll continue to research this subject and let you know what I find on Synology Directory Server. So there you go, YouTube. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, don't forget we have a live stream coming up this Saturday, November the 2nd, which is tomorrow. So I'm putting out this video on Friday. we'll have the live stream tomorrow at noon Central Time, and I'm looking forward to seeing a bunch of you there. We're going to do a shout out and a thank you to all the Patreon and PayPal subscribers over the past few months, those that have donated, and so you have that to look forward. And we're going to be giving a motherboard away, so hope to see you then. Don't forget, if you're so inclined, we do accept PayPal and Patreon, and hope to see you again on the other side.